So in this lesson, we are going to investigate variables. In lesson 1, we explored storing information like a computer. Computers store each piece of information in a variable. In JavaScript, we name or declare a variable with the keyword var, V-A-R. Today, in this lesson, lesson 2, we are going to look at a new app that stores information in variables. So in your journal, I want you to write, how does a baggie represent a variable? Answer that question. In your journal, I want you to answer this question. How does a baggie represent a variable? Pause the video here so that way you have time to answer this in your journal. And remember, you're going to be submitting a picture of your journal as part of your evidence for completing the assignment, along with a screenshot of your code.org activities. So if we were in class, you would have a partner for this, but we are not in class. So you're going to be doing this by yourself. And the first thing that we're going to do, go to Unit 4, Lesson 2 on code.org and look at Level 1. Okay, we are going to investigate the variables. I want you to run the app, play around with it, okay? And then I want you to predict the information that is being stored in a variable. Pause the video here so that way you have time to do that. All right, so this is level 2 of this. Read the code for your assigned section. Since we're doing this at home, you don't have a section. It's all of the code, okay? So read the code for the app and then choose either lines 1 through 12 or lines 14 through 21. So you need to tell me either the first section or the second section that you're going to explain. You need to carefully explain how your section works line by line. And you are going to do this in your journal, okay? So you're going to give your explanation in your journal under the activity section for this lesson. Now, what does it look like whenever we explain what code does? Well, I'll give you a hint. If we were to look at this app together in class, this number is likely going to be a variable because it is changing. Okay, and it's changing whenever we hit the up or the down buttons. So if there's an on event, then you need to explain what is happening when that on event is clicked. You need to explain how this number gets updated, okay? So you have to have at least 5 to 6 explanations written in your journal under this part, okay? Now, let's talk about adding a watcher. When we're trying to debug, we can add a watcher, and this is how you do that. And it watches for whatever it is that you're telling it to watch for. And that's going to help you kind of figure out how things work. So you type in the variable that you're watching. and it's going to tell you what that value is every time you change it. So what I want you to do is pause the video so that you can modify the app to change the degrees by 2 when the up and down arrows are clicked. How can you change the code so that when the up and down arrows are clicked, the temperature changes by 2 degrees instead of by 1 degree? Pause the video here so you have time to do that. So for level 3 of this app, you're going to look through the code, and then I want you to answer this question in your journal. How do you think math.round works? And you can check lines 3, 15, and 28 on this level of code.org to really kind of get a better look at the code, okay? Because this code is kind of small, so make sure you're on code.org looking at that. You're going to answer this question in your journal. So pause the video here so you have time to do that. What happens if you remove math.round? Try removing it and running it and tell me what happens in your journal. So for the next level of this investigation, level 4, I want you to run the app and talk about the changes in your journal. You're going to write a sentence or 2 about the changes, and then you're going to find the math.round command, and you're going to, in your journal, tell me how it might work. And then I want you to change the code so that no space displays between the temperature and the unit descriptions. So we have this space here between the 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 21 degrees Celsius. Change the code so that that space is not there. And then in your journal, I want you to write what you changed for that modification. Pause the video here so you have time to do that. All right, we're moving on to investigation number 3, okay? So this is level 5, bubble 5 on code.org, all right? This program is an updated version of the thermostat app with a login screen, okay? So I want you to run the app and predict the information that is being stored in the variables. And you're going to make that prediction in code.org if it has a space there, but also in your journal. Pause the video here so you can do that. So on level 6, the code for the thermostat app version 3 is displayed. I want you to read the code, and in your journal, put what has changed about the code and what has stayed the same. And then I want you to tell me in your journal how getText, how this function right here works. Then I want you to make a modification. Add an exclamation point to the end of the string stored in username so the following is displayed on the screen. Okay, how can you make that modification? I want you to tell me how you did that in your journal, all right? Pause the video here so you can do that. So we are learning 2 patterns here. A counter pattern with an event, and variables with string concatenation pattern. So the counter pattern with event is a common pattern for updating variables that you will use in making many different apps. We call it the counter pattern with event. So what happens is you create the variable, and we're just calling this my var. It could really say anything like apple. So let's say we have an app where you click the apple. So if it starts at 0, every time we click the apple, the number increases. We're saying apple plus 1 is the new number that is stored in apple every time we touch apple. So every time we click the apple, let's say clicking the apple signifies eating an apple. Every time we click it, we've eaten that many apples. So your variable name can be absolutely anything, okay? Now, the variable with string concatenation. So a string, again, letters, could be numbers, but a string is a specific data type. So if I say variable my string equals rock, variable my other string equals roll, I can say variable my story or my sentence equals the name of the variable without quotations plus quote, space, and space, quote, plus my other string, which is the variable name without quotations. So whenever you're using a variable name, you don't have to put quotations around it, and you should not put quotations around it. Variables can store many different types of information, including numbers and strings. Anything placed inside of the quotation marks becomes a string. And guess what? There's a pattern for working with strings. When we want to combine strings with other strings, numbers, or even with another variable, we call that concatenation. So if you have any questions at this point, I want you to put them on the discussion board that is in the Unit 4 folder, okay? Make sure that you specify what lesson you're on when you are giving your question, and we can work together as a class to help answer those questions. So let's wrap this up. The patterns we learned about in this lesson are present in many different kinds of apps. As we learn new patterns, they will show up in the Help and Tips tab at the top of your screen on programming levels. So let's review. You're going to answer this in your journal under the wrap-up section. What can be stored in a variable? Why is using a meaningful name for the variable important? You're also going to add this term to your journal. Add string. No, sorry. Start with word. Well, yeah, the word is string. Your initial definition and a visual representation. Pause the video here so you can do that. We're also going to add variable to our journal. So a variable is a reference to a value or value that results from evaluating an expression that can be used repeatedly throughout a program. So add that also to your vocab catcher. Pause the video here so you can do that. Again, if you have any questions, please put those in the discussion posts that we have in the Unit 4 folder. And don't forget to complete the code.org levels because they are also part of your grade along with the picture from your journal that you are completing. As always, let me know if you have any questions.